Hello, dear friends. This is Moscow Hawk speaking. So, in first place, free Assange, Julian Assange, in British prison now, facing 175 years of imprisonment. That means death in the US for exposing American British war criminals and crimes in the Middle East and other countries. So, dear friends, the first subject for today is that Sergei Shoigu, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, is now in Minsk, the capital of Belarus, White Russia, meeting this gentleman you see there, Alexander Grigorovich Lukashenko, the current president of Belarus. And well, the Russians, they hope he will serve for several years still. But anyway, Belarus or White Russia is now the only ally of Russia on the European continent in this, well, it is hot war being waged between Russia and NATO countries. In the vanguard, of course, is the USA, the government in Washington of Joe Biden. So the Belarusians, they are going to place Russian nuclear arms in their territory. This is in the field of cooperation and the union of those two countries, which is very close now. And he has got some critics on this decision. We see them there with a huge globus in this quite big and grand office of Lukashenko. So the main critic is now coming from Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, of the French Republic. We don't know how many years he will be serving still, but those Western leaders, they come and go. If we take into consideration Theresa May and Liz Truss and so on. Anyway, he says that it's unacceptable and inappropriate that a country is placing its nuclear arms on other territories. And the press secretary of Putin, Mr. Dmitry Peskov, he took up this phrase of Macron and says it was very, very clear and good and healthy critics from Macron towards the American government, because the USA, they are having and possessing nuclear arms in 5 European countries now, in 5 NATO countries now. Now it's Holland, Belgium, Germany, Italy, and Turkey. In Incirlik in Turkey, Aviano, Gieti Torre in Italy, Büchel in Germany, Kleine Brogel and Fokel in Netherlands and Belgium. So he was joking on this, and of course Macron doesn't show any critics to the Americans. The Americans, they were having nukes in Iceland before they went from there in 2006 by the request of Rumsfeld. They had, and they still have, and they are increasing their presence now in Keflavik, Iceland, military base. It's 50 kilometers from the capital, from Reykjavik. And everybody knew that they were possessing nuclear arms there, and the Americans, they said, well, the nukes are there, and some Icelandic employees, they were, well, not supposed to know it, let's say, and people were joking about it in a way. But the Americans, they don't ask anyone. That's the main thing now. If they can store those nukes in those countries, unfortunately, and they didn't ask those governments of those countries. And the most important is that they are under American command. So if the Bundeswehr or Italian army or the Turks would like to use them or defend themselves or something, that's impossible. It's just from the European command of the U.S. Army. We have here a picture of Zelensky. He was in Poland quite recently and speaking with Andrzej Duda. He is there with his wife Yelena and the pan president wife of Duda is there also as well. When they came, they said Dobry ranok, it means good morning in Ukrainian, but pana prezydenta of Poland, she replied Dobry dien. In Polish it's dzień dobry, but Dobry dien is clean Russian language, so it's a little bit insulting. The Poles, it's pretty clear that they have some appetite on Ukraine, which is here shown on this map, and it's 5 oblast or voyevodina, which is districts in western Ukraine. The Polands have plans to come and occupy and maybe become some protectorate for those regions. But the right-wing Poles, they go into the steps of Józef Pilsudski, general of Poland, Marshal of Rzeczpospolita of Poland in between the wars. And he was dreaming of big Poland, huge Poland, big Poland from the Baltic states into the Black Sea. But those 5 districts in western Ukraine, the Poles are now looking to. Those are the districts of Lwów, Lutsk, Rovno, Chernopol, and Ivano-Frankivsk. We see them on this map. And the Verkhovna Rada, the parliament of Ukraine, adopted new laws number 7550, claiming that Polish citizens, they have special status in Ukraine, so they can take over work in the military, in the police forces, and they don't need any licenses or something in order to stay in Ukraine. So it's quite clear that the map of Ukraine would be changing in nearest future, and in this map we see the east part of Ukraine has been taken over or occupied, as you like, by the Russians. They already have 5 districts now in former Ukraine, they say, or Ukrainian Republic, but the integrity of this Republic of Ukraine is it's disputable. So they have Donetsk region, Lugansk region, Zaporozhye region, Kherson, and the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. They took it over in 2014. This map will change definitely, and the last moment here is today is that they are going to have huge military drills with almost 30,000 soldiers, NATO and USA, of course, defended 2023. It will be held in this region, and the Gulf of Finland is here, is shown. Of course, you see it by St. Petersburg, and you also see down on the left, on the southwest. On this map, you see Kaliningrad region. So the military and people here, which think about those strategic things, they think that the plan is to block Kaliningrad region, which we see on the southwest, and that Finland was taken into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, so quickly, because they left the Swedes behind, because of the geographic situation of Finland. They can use Finland and Estonia in order to block the Gulf of Finland, so that the Russians couldn't put any help to the Kaliningrad region. This is quite reasonable. They are talking about the great offensive of the Ukrainian army quite soon. The Russians are getting ready for this. Huge leak of documents came from the Pentagon, from the CIA. Here in general, in Moscow, the Russians, they think and they claim that this was a special leak in order to disinform the Russians. It was like in the World War II, what they called it Radio Igra, radio game, with the Germans when they were putting disinformation on air, which the Germans translated immediately into German language and reported to Berlin. And very often the Soviets, the Russians, they were lying and using this. This is a classic in such a classical thing and trick in this kind of war still. So they hope that the Russians will lose attention and get weaker, get quite self-assured and so on. But what the Russians are worrying now is that they will use these drills, those military drills, in roughly a month, in order to block Kaliningrad and also that Finland will be used in its quite important geographical situation, because the borderline is 1,340 kilometers. This used to be very peaceful, and huge business went through this borderline in Soviet times and in the years after the breakup of the Soviet Union. Kekkonen was a good friend of Leonid Brezhnev and so on. Urho Kekkonen, he was a very long time the Prime Minister of Finland, and he was, of course, was in the Finnish Social Democratic Party. But it's interesting that Sanna Marin, the party girl from Helsinki, that she lost straight on after she decided to support Zelensky in such a huge manner, to join NATO and so on, that her party lost elections. So anyway, we will monitor those situations. As for now, that's all. Have a nice day and all the best to every one of you.